Welcome to the Cycles of Radiance podcast, a weekly conversation tailored for Gen X Black women and women of color who balance faith, family, friendship, career, and love. Through storytelling and laughter, we embrace the triumphs, challenges, and aspirations experienced by women of color. Your hosts, Joanna Kemper, Dana Middleton, and Stacey Givens, are faith-filled entrepreneurial women who are redefining success on our journey towards well-being. Find us on Instagram at Cycles of Radiance.
Hi.
Hey now.
We're here on
Back
Cycles of Radiance. Thank you for being here. And today we are delving into an interesting topic. Stacey, thank you for bringing it up because I think I don't know if I've heard of this exercise before, but I haven't done it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're actually going to try to do this live. So it's going to be fascinating to see what we get out of here.
Completely impromptu.
Completely impromptu on something so deep. But hey, that's how we roll over here on Cycles of Radiance. Because you can't get to the radiance side unless you go through the cycle, right? So, Stacey, you want to kick off explaining what the exercise was, and then I can spin off on what I was chatting about.
Yeah. So the question is, what would you say if you had to write a letter to your childhood self? So every Monday morning, I attend a journaling exercise. And it really is to set the intention for the week and set the plan for the week and to get my mind ready for the week. And so we meet at 8 a.m. and we Zoom for an hour. And there's always a prompt. And then we write what we're grateful for. There's a gratitude portion. But this morning's prompt was hanging with me. So I wanted to throw it out to Cycles of Radiance. What would you say if you were to write a letter to your childhood self about your accomplishments, about your milestones, about just where you are?
That's a profound question. But usually I've heard it posed as, what advice would you give your younger self? Not really, hey, what were all your accomplishments and where you are now? So I like that framing a little bit better to start off with. And then you can get into the advice part.
Like thinking of that person as a friend, right? Like if your younger self was a friend of yours and you were writing to them, what would you say? Go ahead, Jay.
Hey, friend. So I would talk to my adolescent self, mainly because my dad passed away when I was 10 and my mom was diagnosed with her illness when I was 10. So it was almost like a chasm for me that year. It was just a breaking point. There's 10 before, like before 10 and then after 10 for my life. And I don't remember a lot of the before 10. I remember how I felt, which is very important, but I don't remember a lot of the specific memories. But after 10, I really do remember a lot of those. And I would tell that girl that you did it. You really did it against all odds. You finished your education, even though it was so many obstacles along the way. You pursued your career as much as you could. You have the family, you have the love that you were seeking. So things worked out, even though at that time it seemed very bleak. I mean, my mom was busy trying to keep hope alive for us during that time, but it was very hard for her as well because she had lost her partner, her husband. So it was a grief-filled season, but we made it out of that season with some scars and some lessons, but we made it through that season. So it all worked out. So trust the process and the journey. It's going to be fine. That's kind of where I would start off with her, because she was really worried and trying to take on adult responsibilities before she needed to, just because she wanted to help, as she could see the pain that her mom was in. And so she just wanted to help and mature quickly. And I did mature quickly, but there's impact with doing that. And so it definitely showed up during my life. But we worked it out. Girl, it's all right. Made it. You
You
made
did
it.
it.
It's gonna be all right. That's
Yeah.
kind of where I would start off. How about you guys?
I mean, that's number one, a great place to start, right? I mean, let's talk about the things that we did. Um, in line with that, I can think of several kind of marks where there were I won't even call them obstacles. Like, okay, there's an opportunity to adapt. Like, we've got to change some things. Or life looks different now than it did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, I can see several points in my life where I could say, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. Um, and to roll with that and be good with that. I've always had really good instincts. I used to tell my kids, that feeling, that voice, listen to your gut, because that's God talking to you. And I've always been really good at doing that. But I can definitely point out some times where I was like, well, maybe I should be doing it different, and letting other people's their experiences dictate mine. Well, no, you shouldn't do it that way because this happens. Well, that hasn't been my experience. And I didn't have the words at certain points to say, well, that's not my experience, and I don't have to do it that way. So for me, it would be like, and somehow I always go back, right? So every time I leave the path to, well, maybe it should be done this way, I always go back, like, I should have just kept doing what I was doing. So that would be what I would say to young Dana, middle Dana, 20s, 30-year-old Dana. You know what you're doing. Keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're always doubting ourselves during that chapter in our lives because we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And so we're constantly doubting ourselves and wondering, am I making the right decision or not? But at that point, you do have some gut knowledge
Yeah.
about where you need to go. So
Yeah.
it's just riding that tension of not knowing and then trusting yourself at the same time.
And being okay with your journey being your journey. It doesn't look the same for everybody else. So
that's a word right there.
Yeah.
Walk your walk.
Walk your walk. Yeah.
I agree.
So Stacey, what did you tell yourself this morning?
She's like, I didn't even journal that part.
I didn't.
What?
I didn't. I got to that like towards the end of the hour. I finally started writing to my younger self. And I wrote to my childhood self. I wrote to the 8-year-old who said that she wants to be a writer. And I told her, like, it's harder than it looks, is what I said to her. And I told her, like, I wish that I had your faith, your belief of, I'm going to do this. Like that person inside me who said, that's what I'm going to do. There was no capitulation. There was no doubt. There was no uncertainty. There was conviction. And so I said to her, it's harder than it looks. But I'm working on it. And I told her places that I've traveled to. And then I was like, I'll get back to you. I'll finish this letter later. But
I have more to say.
Right, exactly. Like, I'm going to write you a tome. Like you said you want to be a writer. Okay, so I do too. I'm going to write you a tome, but it's harder than it looks. And there's other things that encroach on my time that keep me from doing what you said. And I realize that she still lives within me. She's still there. That 8-year-old who has this belief, this conviction, this faith of, this is what I want to do. And I think that's the beauty of of childhood and the beauty of youth is there is this place within children that is just so pure and so certain. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a whatever, a doctor. There's no question for them. Like their life hasn't happened to them yet. And there is a strong conviction and belief, and I want to, and therefore I will. There are no obstacles. There is no cycle. There is nothing's in the way. There's just blue sky. There's nothing to release. There's just what they want to do. Their imaginations are so powerful. And I think that, when I finish writing my first letter to her, I'll talk to her about her imagination and the things that she would write about, and the things that she believed. I feel like that's a place that I long to get back to, is imagining the possibilities and believing that they can happen.
You're right. That childlike wonder and faith that you can do all the things. And we want to protect that for kids, because that's the only time really in your life where you can nurture that 100%, because you haven't been saddled with the responsibilities of living. So it's a beautiful chapter in life. So when it gets robbed from children, it's like really upsetting to another level. But
it dims a light. I mean, because at that point in your life, that's like Stacey said, that's pure, right? I know who I am. I know what I want out of life. I'm here to explore. I'm going to do all the things. And then somebody comes along and tells you, no. Now, my mom did a great job of trying to help me hold that. To this day, she still will say, that's who you are. That's what you've always done. Don't let that go. But somehow we let these things and this expectation, I mean, why is there a thing where, oh, well, you can't think that way because you have bills to pay? You can still think that way and pay bills. You know what I mean? Like, because this is just me, but from a spiritual standpoint, you have to hold on to that pureness, to kind of hold yourself up as you walk through all of this, right? You need that belief in yourself, in what, because obviously, like, you didn't just make that up, right? It came from somewhere. So you're walking this path, and if faith is a priority for you, then it's more important than ever to be able to hold on to that, to identify that, to allow that to carry you through all of these cycles. So, I mean, you give that up, and then you get to this point in your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, and go, wait a minute, I should have held on to that the whole time. You know what I mean? So making sure our children don't think that they have to give up who they are. They know who they are. We try to tell them that's not who they are. And that ain't cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're looking at it from this adult lens versus their lens. So we're busy we're thinking we're doing the right thing, right? We're trying to get them ready for adulthood. And so in that process, sometimes we squash that childlike imagination and fun and everything way too soon. It's funny because when I was facilitating a workshop the other day, I brought in all of these little squares. They're interlocking that you can build things with, and scented Play-Doh. And to see, I mean, I still get excited when I see scented Play-Doh. I think it's so fun. And so, they started playing with here's adults, but they had to be encouraged to do so.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because they were all in like, okay, I'm here to learn and get this knowledge. And I'm like, well, sometimes you just need to play. And that relaxes your mind a little bit so you can be a little bit more receptive to the
Mm-hmm.
input. But as adults, we have really done a good job at squashing our fun and our imagination and play and leisure, for the sake of what,
Of
frankly?
what exactly?
What
Of
do you?
what?
Yeah.
Because then we go back and we hold these team building exercises and these workshops to teach us how to be creative, and because innovation is important, and let's explore design thinking, all of these things that we knew how to do already, but you
Yeah.
take out the Play-Doh and put it on a table in front of adults and they're like, okay, obviously we're not supposed to touch that yet, we need to wait for instruction.
Yes.
We've been programmed, and we carry it on because that's what you're supposed to do. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, yeah.
Kids are
So
like
busy trying to conform.
I think they are the ones to watch because of how clever they are, how they innovate, how they come up with solutions to things that adults wouldn't think of, because they're
Mm-hmm.
imaginative. We're trying to solve problems, and we are using these big brains, that have all these degrees and certifications, and children are like, we could probably just do this. And they will
Right.
create something that is a simple solution,
Right.
not over
Right.
engineered, very, very simple. And I feel like whatever it is that your child self said it wanted to do, that person wanted to do or be, is really who you are. Not all this other
Mm-hmm.
mess that we have internalized over the years after going to university and after going to whatever company we worked for and getting whatever position that we held. That's not the true you. The true Stacy
Mm-hmm.
is the 8-year-old who said, I'll be a writer. It's not the person
Yeah.
that I have evolved into today. Those are things that I had to do along the way for 1,000 other reasons, but that's not the true me. And I feel like when I see people with their kids and they're trying to push them to declare things way before it's time, I'm like, why are you asking a 17-year-old what they want to major in college? Why can't they just go and have an
Right.
experience? I get that it costs money. I get that there's a timeline, but you're trying to force somebody who's so young to say what it is that they want to do. How many of us are doing what we studied in university?
Right.
Like very few.
Right.
You see folks who are like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I have a degree in chemistry, but I run a food truck.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, really a food truck? Yeah, I have a food truck. I make donuts. Like, I mean, these are the realities, and it's because we've been squashed into
And
these
making a
buckets.
living making donuts.
Exactly.
And making a living.
Right? Doing something
Yeah.
that you wanted to do. A girlfriend of mine, her really close friend, has a daughter, and I think the child is maybe about 13, maybe. She might be 12. She's young. And this child can bake. Like she's gourmet. I've
Look
seen
at
the
Jay's face.
pictures. Yeah, oh, that's right. I forgot I was tapping into to Jay's zone of
Yes,
genius.
you just hit something.
Right? And watching her Instagram and what she's put together and these gourmet desserts and whatever at such a young age, she knows, like, this is what she loves. And my thing is, I don't know these people. I just know what my girlfriend shares with me about them. But I'm like, I really hope that the love for what she does is never taken away. Because when it turns into, now you have to be a chef, and now you're a sous chef, and now you're this, and now you're running a restaurant, and now it starts to pull away the creativity and the love and the joy of the art form, right? It's the same thing with writing. Well, now you're on a deadline, and now you have to do this, now you got to do that, and you have to crank out 6 articles, and it takes away the love of just writing for the joy of writing and saying what's in my mind or what's in my heart or what I'm thinking about and what's freeing me. We start putting all these constraints on the gift. And then we wonder why it's not evolving the way it should evolve. Well, you've constrained it. You've strangled the gift down to well, it has to make money. It has to this. It has to that. No, it doesn't. Just let it be the gift.
Yeah.
If your child has a gift and a talent for art and drawing pictures of dinosaurs, Godspeed. But to turn it into, well, now you got to go work for National Geographic. Well, Jesus Christ, there's 7.
Yeah. And
Let them
and
just
so
draw
when you're talking
dinosaurs.
about now I've got all these deadlines and it's not doing all these things, for the people who are listening who are like, well, wait, it's not all about how you feel and making it all fun and living all that. I mean, we have the evidence, right? We have the evidence
You have
to
empirical evidence.
support empirical evidence. Research
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
shows
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that when you are able to operate the way you operate, you're actually more productive. It's actually a better outcome. It's actually a better everything. So it's yes, 100% I'm here for the feels, but there could be people listening who are like, "Hey, life ain't about feels." Yeah, it gives you better numbers too. So I just had to say that.
But that's the
Absolutely.
whole thing, though, right?
Absolutely.
The people who say that it's not about the feels, I would challenge them to say, so then who took away your bike? You know what I mean? Your
Mm,
metaphorical bike, your literal bike. Like, who took away your dream? Who took away your enjoyment of childhood? Because at some
yep.
point, there was a thing that you loved. At some point, you enjoyed it so much that you wanted to do that thing. And somewhere there was a shift. And now your
Hmm.
perspective is, well, I gotta make this thing happen. I gotta put aside childish things, right?
Hmm.
Once I
And you're
became a
miserable.
adult, then I put away childish things, right? And I think that there's room though for us to revisit that and stop thinking that we can't enjoy our lives. My God, like this whole notion of it's got
Hmm.
to be this constrained, regimented, no fun, no laughter, no joy. I'm like, I just don't agree with that. I don't believe that that's how we're supposed to be living
Mm-mm.
our lives. Certainly not for me.
Mm-mm.
Those out
It's
there
not
who are
quality of
like,
life.
thank you. And anyone who's like, screw the feels, I got to this, that, and the third, I feel for you. I really think you
Yeah.
need to revisit that scented Play-Doh and the squares that Jay is going to put on the table for you. And you need to spend
Mm.
some time playing. You need to spend some time tapping into that inner child. And I bet something new is going to come forth. And you're going to be like, dang it, I actually think that I want to paint. I think I'm going to take some painting
Yeah.
classes. And before you know it, you're tapping into the inner strength, the inner gifts that you've been given. The Lord has given these things to you, but you put them on the shelf because of all these other pressures. There
Nobody
comes a point
told
where we
you
got to
to.
push those other pressures away. That's just how I see it.
Yeah.
We have to be
Yeah.
intentional about how we spend our time and then also realize that not everything has to be monetized. So I think of course, we're living in a capitalist society where everything has to make money or there's that
Mm-hmm.
expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And not all gifts have to be monetized. Some gifts can just be enjoyed for leisure. And that's totally fine. I think somewhere in, in this culture, we've lost, just like we've lost an appreciation for rest, we've lost an appreciation for just leisure. I just, I just enjoy doing that, but I don't need to make money off of it. I just like it. Okay, so I'm just gonna do
Hmm.
it, and that's fine.
It's
And so
it's also important. That's
it's
part of
also
your
important.
wellness. That's part of your well-being.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
It
it
doesn't
should be
all have to be.
encouraged. Yeah.
Yeah, but not everything has to be work, work, work. Because once
Mm-hmm.
you're monetizing it, now it turns into work a little bit more because you're having to put deadlines, parameters, and structure and all these things around it so that you can make that money, right? Because there's expectations now tied to it. And that's not wrong. It can work for some people, and that's great. But for some people, it's like, you know what? I just want to do my gift just because I like it. And that's it.
Hmm.
Or I'm going to volunteer my gift,
Hmm.
outside of work because that's where I enjoy sharing that gift. And that's fine. So appreciating just leisure, just doing things for fun.
Yeah.
Can we just do that? Like I also put tic-tac-toe games out and
Mm.
people were loving to play that. When was the last time you played tic-tac-toe? One. So like just playing games just for the sake of fun.
Hmm.
And I think we forget that that imagination and games brings out fun and laughter and lightheartedness. It brings some light in all the darkness and the tension and the responsibilities that we're living with. So it makes it a little bit more palatable and we can get through it. So yes, therapy is helpful, but sometimes you just need to get on the floor and play some games.
Go play a game.
You
It
know,
reduces
Get
your
your
blood
sidewalks
pressure. It
on.
reduces your stress level. It
It
reduces
does.
cortisol. Like there's a lot of reasons to just go out and to your point, play or just being on a playground and watching kids play. Like it does something to you.
laughing.
Right.
Oh,
Right?
It's automatic. You see them playing and laughing and running around on the swings and whatever else. There's a there's a transition. There's a physiological thing that happens. Certainly to me, when
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching these kids on the playground, I see kids outside my window all the time, running up and down the street. Just that's all they're doing. They just running back and forth in the middle of the street,
Yep.
back and forth.
Yeah.
Or one of them will have a scooter, and one of them will be on a bike, and one of
Yep.
them will be running. And then the next thing you know, the three have changed, and they're all doing something different. And it's spring
Mm-hmm.
break right now, so this is what I'm seeing on a regular basis. And it makes me smile. I feel differently. And everybody
Yeah.
knows, well, people should know, right? When you smile, it does have a physiological impact on your body. It really does.
It
It lowers your
does.
blood pressure. It just shifts, it increases your serotonin. All these different things shift in your body
Yeah.
when you're smiling or when you're laughing. So when I see these little guys outside, they crack me up. They crack me up. The
Mm-hmm.
world is theirs. The entire street is owned by these kids. They are not
yeah.
pressed by a car coming. It's like everyone is like tiptoeing
No.
around. Like you drive down the street and you're waiting because you're like, okay, so let me look. They own the block, and there's just so
Mm-hmm.
much
Yeah.
to that, and I hope that they never lose it, the enjoyment of just
Yeah.
being outside and playing, because you don't
Yep.
see that very often. A lot of times, kids today are on devices and they're playing on their
Yep.
phones and iPads and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But to see these kids outside, it changes so much in their bodies and how they develop. We are Americans are an obese society. We don't, there's not a whole
Sedentary.
lot of outdoor playing. Right. We're very sedentary. We're behind screens all the
Mm-hmm.
time. We're not getting vitamin D. So it's a lot of reasons, I think, to tap into that inner child and ask that inner child what they want to do today. Yes, there's a
Yeah.
thousand things that the adult you has to do, but what does the inner child want to do today? Is it ice cream? Is it a snow cone? Is it making a snow cone? Is it baking cookies? Is it going for a bike ride? Is it sitting on the swings? When was the last time you sat on a swing?
I love the swings. They were
Yeah.
so much fun. You're
Yeah.
trying to swing up high, see if you could touch a tree with your feet. I mean, it was just pure enjoyment. It's something that you brought up that I thought was great that we also forget is that when I see kids playing, though 1 second they'll be riding the bike and they drop it. And the next second they're riding a scooter and they drop that. And the next second they're playing with the dirt or the sand, whatever, right? And they drop that and then they're doing frisbee. And is there's like just freeness of just changing the play, changing the game, right? And I feel
Yes.
like as adults, want to be so committed to one thing. And I have to decide that I'm going to do this, and this is what I'm going to focus on, and that's all
Yeah.
I'm going to do. And I'm like, well, why? I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes just mix it up. You need to step away. And it's funny because I was listening to the podcast Huberman, and they were talking about how you enhance productivity. And it was interesting that the doctor that he has on there was talking about how he has no social media and he doesn't use it. And he's like, when you remove these things, you actually find the phone less interesting because you're not doing all these other things on the phone, right? So it frees up your time to do actual things around you that
Mm-hmm.
add value not just to the people around you but also to yourself. And he mentioned how, and I'm sure you've heard this before, I know it comes up for neurodiversity a lot. It's like you work on something for 20 minutes, focus energy, and then you give yourself a break and go
Yeah.
do something else.
Go do
And
something
then you
else.
can come back and continue your task. And so we are just wired neurologically to do different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's okay to change gears and recognize that about ourselves because it could actually help us in the long run to actually get all that we want to do, get it done in a reasonable amount of time and still enjoy it in the process. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that about children. They just change. Even though as a mom, it's annoying because then I have to, I'm like, did you pick up all your
Whole different
stuff? Did you
story.
put all the chalk back in the bin? Did you clean up your mess? So I know there's that part too as an
Mhm.
adult. So that's how I come in as an adult and kind of crush the fun, right? Because I'm like, yeah, you want to move on to the next thing, but you need to pick up your mess. So it's a constant balancing act there.
Yeah.
I have been setting a
Yeah.
timer for the picking up of the mess. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes for lack of a better way to say it, it gamifies the cleaning, which I think can be
Mm-hmm.
done with kids too, right? Like, okay, I'm going to set this
There's a
timer, and when
cleanup
the timer
song.
goes off, right there you go, right? But by the time this timer goes off, all of this needs to be done. Otherwise, to your point earlier, right? Of 20 minutes and then move to something else. Like, I'm not trying to fold laundry for an hour. Like,
Mm-mm.
I got a good 15 minutes to get this laundry folded, and then I got to move to something else. Let me wash these dishes, bust
Mm-hmm.
these suds, sweep this floor, whatever. And when the hour is up, then I get to take a break and do something different that isn't cleaning, that isn't cooking, that isn't meal prep, that isn't all of these other adult chores. But again, it's like tapping into what we were doing as kids, I think is so important. We had recess as
Mhm.
kids, we had nap time as kids, we had coloring as kids, there was all the other language stuff, right? We had to do the reading and the writing and the arithmetic, but we also had the fun elements where you're going to use finger paints and you're going to use creativity and you're going to use your imagination. We had story time where someone's reading to us, and we
Mhm.
become adults. Somewhere there's like this break, and we stop doing those things. I'm like, if it was good for us when we were kids and it was good for our development, and we continue to develop, we never stop developing, why did we
Never
stop doing those
stop.
things?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Arithmetic. I haven't heard that word in a long time, Stacey.
It's
Rudimentary,
rudimentary.
Jay. We're going back to
Rudimentary.
rudimentary. Y'all know me in the
Oh,
rudimentary tools, rudimentary words. We're going back to the
There
basics.
we go. Going back to the basics.
Yeah.
I
it's funny
mean,
how
I
all of us
just
want to
gotta,
tap to that child and bring back the fun, right? I remember
yes.
last summer we tried that endeavor. Like, how are you going to have fun this summer, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I
sure
think we just need
did.
to have that mindset throughout the year. How are you bringing fun into your existence? How are you bringing that
Mhm.
childhood imagination into your life? Because now as adults, we have responsibilities, so we have to be more intentional about
Mm-hmm.
how bringing that back into our lives. But we could talk about it another time. I think that we have time available. We're just
No, we
not
do.
using it
We
wisely.
do. We're still letting people dictate our time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a number of people. Some of these things are absolutely justifiable. Other things not so much, because why is this even making the list right now?
Mm-hmm.
And then, and this is really how all of this even got started. But then you wonder, why are you tired? Why are you drained? Why are these things not coming to you? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're pushing through all the time, and you're not doing anything to feed your soul, to feed your spirit, to bring joy. And you have to do that. And as adults, again, we're putting all this money into making sure we're, the children are our future, the future workforce, but we're still stripping these things. And we have to, as the grown-ups, we have to make sure that we're saying, no, these things are okay. They're not only okay, they're really
Necessary.
important. They're really important. Don't get me started on healthcare spending. Um, you know, all of that, talking about the things that the kids don't do in schools anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
then you go home and there's no playground. I mean, all of these things. That's why they call them I prefer influencers of health. But these things matter, and they're just so simple. Simple little things that we can do, like say, let's go outside for a minute, catch some vitamin D, and we'll feel better. But we keep saying, no, we don't have time for those things.
Yeah, and then it's like,
Um,
what are we having time for then? So if
yeah,
you can't do the little things that are really nourishing your soul and your spirit and your health,
right.
then what are you doing with that time? Being in front of a digital device? It's like the other day when the kids got home, the weather was beautiful here. Finally, it got up to 75 or something. It was crazy.
Hmm.
And the sun was out. And of course, they have homework, lots of it. And my oldest came home thinking, I have to do this homework and then I've got to put away my laundry and all these things. And I was like, hey, go outside and play.
Yeah.
Just go outside
Yeah.
and play. It will all
It
be
will all
here.
be there.
It will all be here.
Mm-hmm.
Just go outside, have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will prioritize when you get back home what needs to get done and what doesn't. And if we miss
Yep.
part of your homework, then so be it. You know, like I think we just need to you go into the schools now and the playground is either non-existent or way smaller than it was back in our day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just an indicator of how things are being prioritized at school. It's like they're teaching to the test and you have to learn X, Y, and Z by this date and in this school year. And then we're missing out on the social development components and the well-being components.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposedly, quote unquote, bringing them in other ways, but
I'm not seeing it.
I'm not seeing it, right?
No.
And I think it's just interesting that the simpler things in life from years ago that perhaps people feel were not valuable. Now we're realizing that they are valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But now we've gotten into a situation that we've moved the pendulum so far and we're trying to figure out, well, how do we take it back? Because everybody's like in this wheel of busy, 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 busy. And I'm like, busy doing what? Like when you sit down and you ask people, what are you actually doing? What are you doing with your time? The answers are quite interesting.
If you
Especially
know.
when you ask yourself.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
No.
Well, I'm busy producing and working. Uh-huh. Great.
Okay.
Is that what we're going to put on your tombstone?
Here lies.
I've seen a tombstone that says, such a great employee. You know?
Here lies the busiest person ever.
Yes.
Terrible. This is terrible. So then what are you going to do then? What are you going to do? What are you going to do for fun this week?
I'm going to play more.
Got to play more.
I actually played with those little squares. I like them a lot. Those interlocking squares are a lot of fun. You could build a whole lot of different things, and they're very tiny. And so it takes a little bit more focus for you to actually get them to interlock. So that was really, really enjoyable. And I like doing it with my kids because it's interesting. The other day I was sitting with them and my imagination is so poor at this point in my life. I'm trying to like resuscitate it, right? It's like it needs like those shock things, like wake it up. And but my eldest did like this whole patio with it and chairs and like a little like tabletop, and it's like this little outdoor experience. And then she made little fruits to go with it. And I was like, how'd you come up with that?
And she's like, how did you not? Like,
how did you not? That was
Exactly.
exactly her thing. She was looking at my struggle, I was trying to build. I was like, well, I guess I'll build a letter and say, look, I was thinking of you. I did the first letter of your name. she was just looking at mine like, she's like, it's okay, Mom.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart, Mama.
Just keep. She's like, it look good. It looks good. Just keep working at it. And I was like, yours looks amazing. I had no idea that you could do all that. And she's just looking at me like, duh.
You're right. Right.
You know, it was just a very good visual in my face of, wow, I've done a great job at shutting down my imagination and creativity, and trying to resuscitate it is a lot harder. So frankly, I think we just need to be in the business of sustaining and keeping and flourishing, right, our imagination and creativity versus trying to resuscitate it, because it's a lot harder. Yeah, I want to play with those little interlocking squares. And then cooking. I love cooking. I already have my menu for it. What I want to make.
Surprised here.
And so that is my creative outlet, actually, is the cooking.
Right.
Okay.
Right. What's Jay doing? But now, you win here because you really have been working to get back to that point. and almost now you can see it just kind of second nature again, you know, and can see a difference. Just like when Stacey was talking about her friend's daughter who bakes, your eyes just start to sparkle, and that is because you did make that part of your well-being a priority. So kudos to you, Jay. No hypocrites here. Love
Thank you.
that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So Dana, what does
Yeah.
fun look like for you?
You know, that's a very good question. That's
She's
a
like, I gotta
very
think
good
about
question.
that.
I do have to think about it. I mean, quite honestly, for the longest, it was paint. It was pulling out the markers and the drawing pad, and I'll start this week with the sidewalk chalk, and we'll go from there.
Ooh,
Yeah.
sidewalk chalk.
I love
Ooh.
sidewalk chalk and bubbles. Yeah. We'll start there.
Okay.
What you gonna do?
Wow. You know what? I was
I
never
think you
a
should take a
kid.
picture of your creation and send it to us.
Who, Stacey? Absolutely.
No, I
we're
think
talking
of
about
your
you.
sidewalk.
Did you just interrupt Stacey? She was talking.
I was
talking
because I
about- we're
wanted to
talking
make
about-
sure. We're bringing in accountability, so you need to take a picture and text it to us of your sidewalk chalk creation.
Fine.
Thank you so much, Dana.
Yes,
Hey,
yes, thank you for
my
that.
pleasure.
When I'm
Stacey, sorry
walking-
for
so-
interrupting.
When I'm walking in the neighborhood, I will see chalk on the ground, and I really want to pick it up. But I'm like, because the kids will leave stuff out. Like I walk around in my neighborhood,
do
and
it.
I don't care. They'll get some more.
I see little bits of chalk out there. I never had sidewalk chalk as a child, so I would see it, and I thought it was
Stacey.
Okay.
right.
You need to go
yeah.
get some
Yeah, you got to
and draw something and then just leave it out there for the kids. They would totally use all that chalk. Come on, Stacey. Do it. Do it.
Say yes.
Maybe I will. I don't know. Maybe I'll draw like a
Maybe.
hopscotch.
How hard is it
thing
to go get some
on
sidewalk
my-
chalk?
See, look. See how people just want to steal your fun? Just try to tell you how to have your fun. Go sit down.
Look,
You're right. I'm going to tell you how to have your fun.
How y'all gonna tell me how to?
You seemed
This
excited
is
though. Like you've been
You did.
wanting to do
You
this.
really did. So
I
here's
love
what you
to
do.
see it out
Mhm.
there.
Here's what you do.
See,
you go
you
get your
see-
sidewalk chalk.
Look at
Hush and
this.
listen. Go get
Look
your
at 'em.
sidewalk chalk, and you get your little area. You can even start on your patio, your deck if you want to. Write a poem. Then it's double duty. It's the 8-year-old writer doing something outside with sidewalk chalk. So go get some sidewalk chalk and write a poem.
D Sharp came in hot.
Didn't she? See, listen.
You came up with this
This
topic.
is not.
I was sitting here quiet, minding my
You
business.
were. You were. You know what? And we're gonna let you stay quiet from here on out. We're gonna let you stay quiet to the end of the
Right.
episode.
She's
See.
She's
Too
not.
late. You know, once I
Goodness
start,
gracious.
once we take the top off. So that's why often I just keep my mouth closed.
Come on, it's more
Can't
fun that
even-
way.
Can't even get Pandora back in her box. God.
She's not gonna go back in that box. We don't want her in that
She
box,
not.
Stacey. We want
She
her to be her
not.
full,
She not.
authentic self.
Every time.
All right,
Look
Stacey.
forward to
Well,
that picture.
what else would you like to do, Stacey? How are you going to incorporate fun in your life this week?
The way you're trying to give her a choice, I'm not understanding.
Because I know
See?
we're going to end up in the same spot, but I'd like her to feel like she has, choice.
So choice. See, now, do y'all see? I need our listeners to pay attention to how we talked about constraining folks at the top of the hour. Right? We talked about let kids just let their imagination run wild. And these two grown folks have told my inner child that she needs to go get some sidewalk chalk. They ain't let my inner child say
No.
a word. They done
We didn't tell
decided
your
for her.
child. We told your old child. We
See?
telling your old butt to go get sidewalk chalk and write a poem. So
I'm not.
we'll
I
say,
am not listening to these women on today.
You go to Dollar Tree, they have a whole lot of chalk for cheap. A lot of different colors, too. They even sell chalk now with like a holder, too, so you don't even have to get your hands that dirty with the chalk.
so then, looking forward to the
Stacey, so
picture.
Good to
what you
know.
gonna do, Stacey?
Good to know. Good to know.
What
I
you gonna
ain't
what you
gonna do nothing
Stacey?
y'all said do. That's what.
Okay.
Um.
Okay. That's okay.
I'm thinking
That's
about
childish. Her child is coming out.
Childish, Betty.
yeah. You know what? Because you are making the demand, I'm gonna have to push back and be like, then I'm not doing it. See what happens?
That sounds
Do you see what
about right.
happens?
Okay,
I hope that this is a
That's an
lesson for you.
8-year-old.
That's right. I hope that this is a
You're
lesson
right.
for you adults
My
out
bad.
there to just allow the children to express their creativity in the ways that they deem best and leave them be to be creative. How
But
about
you
that?
still haven't answered the question.
Because y'all been forcing me into this sidewalk chalk stuff. I am thinking about going to go buy a coloring book because I've never been a kid that colored, but I think I'd like to go get a coloring book. And I actually bought one for someone else, and it happened to be she hasn't seen it yet, so if she listens to this, she's gonna know what it is. But see, there you go. It's I believe it's the Book of Psalms. And so it's a way to learn scripture while coloring. And she loves to color. So I was like, shoot, I might go get one of those for myself. Like, I'm big on memorizing scripture. And her thing was, I don't know, I've never really tried that. It's hard for me to memorize it. And I'm like, but I bet if you had some colored pens and you were coloring in these letters, that would help you. So I think I might do something like that because that feeds my literary side. And I'm told that coloring is very calming.
It is.
I don't know if it is or not. I guess I'll find out.
Calming. It is. At least for me, it was. Yeah. I really enjoy it.
Ditto.
So
I was one of those kids who could not color inside the lines. I was always coloring outside the lines. Like, constraints?
That's okay too.
Who needs constraints? What's this space out here?
Just demonstrated. I'm not doing sidewalk chalk.
I refuse. She'll refuse.
Can we get a picture though of your coloring book, please? Once you get it.
Yeah. I would also love to hear what other people are doing. So anybody out there who has suggestions or, helpful whatevers, these are the things that you do. We would love to hear what those things are. And
absolutely.
I mean, if you're really bad at it, send some pictures. Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. We love pictures. We like empirical evidence.
Gotta have that, right?
Accountability.
Yeah.
We gotta hold each other accountable to have fun.
The art and the science.
Yes.
Of living well.
I like that, Dana. Let's hear from you, our audience.
Oh, okay.
How do you have fun?
Absolutely.
Well, we hope that you have some fun this week, that you incorporate fun in your life, that you tap into your inner child. And of course, sound off with us in our comments. You can follow us on Instagram, Cycles of Radiance. We would love to hear from you. Yeah. Have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Our desire is to empower, support, and elevate you on this collective journey towards a fulfilled life. We invite you to connect and find community with us on Instagram as Cycles of Radiance.